It's never been easier to support independent voices and experience the Portland Film Festival. Simply grab your Xfinity voice remote and say Portland Film Festival.
Next, the Watch With app appears with all the content at your fingertips. Enjoy behind-the-scenes access to free films created by a diverse array of talented independent filmmakers.
Willie, there are so many great movies to watch from the comfort of our own home, and experiencing the Portland Film Festival has never been easier.
Welcome to the 2021 Portland Film Festival presented by Comcast. This year's festival is jam-packed with movies, workshops, panels, and more. To find out more information about the films you're going to be hearing about or to buy tickets, just go online to pdxff.com. My name is Joe Stevens. We'd like to welcome our 2021 filmmakers to the panel this morning. Morning.
Good morning, Joe. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good, thank you.
Would you mind quickly introducing yourself and giving us a quick synopsis about your film?
Sure. Thank you. My name is Chris Giro. I'm the director of The Sound of Us. It is a film about the goodness that we are all in together as humans through the power of music.
That's definitely something I can agree with. Music is personally one of my favorite things in the world. When I was watching, it became very clear to me very quickly that you were making something about the One More Time Around band. And that's they're a group I've watched every Grand Floral Parade since I was a kid.
Oh, wow.
What made you want to tell this story?
Well, it's a little complicated, but there's 9 segments in the film about, ordinary everyday people that do extraordinary things for other people through music, and how we're all connected to it. And quite honestly speaking, the Second Time Rounders segment, my first real big chance that somebody took on me as a lost little kid was one of the subject matters, Roger Green, who was my band director, and he went off to found Second Time Rounders with Bill Dyson, and we've remained friends for many years. But I was always fascinated that he would fund and and go around the world giving people through music, another chance to be involved. And as you know, marching band is kind of a little bit of a cliquey thing, and so I wanted to celebrate the fact that they're now just going on to their 40th year, doing this, and it's quite spectacular.
So, how did you make the jump from band kid to a filmmaker?
A long process. I went into the music business very, very early. I made my way up the food chain, so to speak, became a producer, and was itchy to get into films. And so I started making films related to the music I was making and or the subject matter in the music that I was making, and it just kind of grew from there. The clientele started getting really big, and I started needing to tell bigger stories, and subsequently the trajectory just kind of went to where we are today. So it was honestly, it was just a lot of determination and quite a considerable amount of hard work and a lot of faith.
So how have you, if you've been able to see it screen live, how have you seen it resonate with audiences?
Yeah. It's it's hard to kind of talk about your own film without, sounding, trite or egotistical. It is a very deep, powerful film, and we get a lot of I just spent 2 hours crying, and you went to prove something that I didn't think could be proven, and we get a lot of, this is epic, this is way bigger than what I was expecting, or documentary, much not what I was expecting at all. But we've had no negative feedback, and we're quite proud of the message that the movie portrays.
And have audiences been receptive to the message you were wanted to send? Do they find music as important to them as to you or to me or to anyone in the film?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. I think everybody, takes it in differently, or accepts it differently. What I challenge the viewer in the film is why are you connected to it, even if you're not really connected to it, and we kind of go to the genesis of that idea, as to where it came from, why did it start, why does every culture on this planet have music as part of their culture, uh, um, how are we all connected to it, and why does it create, and this is really kind of the important part, why does it create empathy to each other when it's being played, and when you're receiving it and feeling it, and how does it make us better people? So there's it's a deep film that really kind of is very respectful to this idea and to who we are together in it.
I have to agree. Is there anything coming up for you as a director?
Coming up,
Yep. Do you have any projects you'd like to talk about?
I'm back to right now just producing live concerts, for other artists, and things that are related to the company that I work for. But as far as films are concerned, we're now looking to roll this out into a series. From the film. So we're really just in development of looking at what that's going to look like, and then ultimately where this film goes to live, whether it does a theatrical run, and then where the home that it lands. So that's really what we're really focused on now.
Well, Chris, thank you so much for talking to us this morning. You can watch his film at pdxff.com.
Thank you, Joe, for having me.
Absolutely. Next, we have the director from Live in the House.
Hello.
Hey, good morning.
Can you hear the echo here?
I don't have an echo on this end, no.
Oh, that's nice. Okay, cool. Good morning. Good morning.
Morning. First thing that jumped out at me was the little, like, just trace amounts of English in your film. Why was it important to do it in another language?
Oh, because I that's my native language. So you mean, okay, I speak mostly in Chinese in this film, right? So that's my native language, and I think the theme of this film, like how to define punk, I'm talking about this topic in a perspective from like my Chinese punk culture. Like this is something like I varied punk to something I really need. So I using the language I speak the most comfortably to tell the story, the personal story that's really matters to me. So I'm choosing the language that I'm most comfortable to speak.
So it was very interesting to hear about punk culture still thriving. I didn't expect it to still be thriving in so many places, especially in Philadelphia. I'd never heard of punk in Philadelphia. That was wild to me.
That's true. Actually, it's like the punk culture or the whole indie music culture is kind of thrive since like 2014, while the outdoor music festival is thriving in China here. So there are many punk bands or like indie bands around China, but they didn't get that popular since then, until then. So that was a time when Chinese people starting to pay attention on this culture, and also when I arrived US at 2013, I was kind of surprised that people are stop talking about this culture. They don't talk about this anymore. And I went to the CBGB. They just stopped running, and that's kind of depressing experience for me when I first went to New York. But that's why, like I said, that's why I choose using Chinese to like do most of the narrative, because I think the story I'm telling here is something that's quite unique, that I bring my culture into this culture that forms the experience that we had in this film.
So how would you compare, the various American punk cultures to your native, the Chinese punk culture? How are they similar? How are they different?
Uh, I think the core spirits, like the rebelling and all this very young spirit narrative, they are all the same. It's all shares in all. I guess the most punk culture I know around the world, but I think in China we kind of it's kind of like, while we doing all this stuff, we are pretty late. Like it's like 20 years late. We starting to making all this underground bands on the ground, and majority of people are talking about them. There is some kind of uh not what's that word, nostalgia, or like it's kind of like we are looking back.
Nostalgia, yeah.
Yeah, looking back to a wave that happened underground. So like most famous punk band right now are the members are around 40s. Like they cannot like still having the rock and roll life anymore. So it's kind of different. It's kind of different. But the people who are still like going to the concert are people at my age. So it's kind of like the music venue right now in China is like 40s people like performing for young people like us. So I think there's something new, like is happening here on the in terms of punk culture.
Did you have any trouble, any problems making this film? Anything that was especially challenging?
Uh, yeah, I think the most challenging thing is how how I like changing different crew for different things. Uh, I having 3 interviews in these short films, but in each one we are having different crew. So I have to like teaching them how to like shoot a film like in two different groups. So there are many mistakes happened during the shooting, but in fact I'm kind of a director who is kind of okay with that. I'm kind of okay with what.
I guess, is there anything coming up for you as a director? Yeah, I think we might have lost him. All right, I guess we have. If he comes back, we'll talk to him a little more. If not, we'll bring on our next set of directors. Hi there.
How's it going, Joe?
Doing well. Would you guys mind introducing yourselves and your film real quickly?
Sure. My name is Sydney M. Pirtle, and I was kind of more of the artistic director on set. And
My name is Henry Wirtz, and I was the DP, camera operator, editor on set.
yep, and our film is The Only Thing You See Now. It was the one that was recorded on a dock in Seattle.
So, would you mind telling me why a film about dance?
Well, actually, so it was made at the very beginning of the pandemic, when the performing arts, we were all unsure of what was going to happen next. When all of theater productions started shutting down, all live shows started shutting down, and the dance company Seattle Dance Collective here in Seattle hired 5 different smaller companies and dancer choreographer teams to create pieces for the camera in order to pivot to make that transition better for the dancers and performers during this crazy time.
So it actually looked beautiful. So you guys did a great job shooting. Kind of I'm not going to say gloomy. Seattle is gloomy for me. I'm a Portlander. I don't like Seattle, this kind of thing. But you get a little blue in there. I like the colors. Did you guys? Oh wow. Do you have any problems making this film aside from being at the start of COVID? Any troubles trying to get everyone together to shoot?
Not so much troubles, but it was definitely allowing us to kind of work within, we're working with a really small crew. So that was one of the flexibilities, was that we could kind of shuffle things around and film when we needed to, which ended up being like early sunrise, because it was the only time that coincided with sunrise and high tide where the docks were. So if you can see in the film, the docks actually kind of float up and down depending on the tide. And so we kind of were waiting for a very specific window at like 4:30 in the morning to film. Yeah, so it ended up, being a couple days of patching together a whole different bunch of takes, from making sure that the tide was exactly right.
That was gonna be my next question. There's like, how many days did it take? If you have just enough time during the day to get that nice floating shot. Yeah, how was that? Trying to just having a narrow window like that every day where you can get a few minutes of time.
I think it ended up being 3 days, but spread out over about a month. So it ended up being a lot of work, as much as matching camera angles and light and, temperatures and all that. Ended up being a lot of work in post, trying to make sure that our sunrises kind of seemed copacetic together, even though it was, kind of spread out over 3 weeks of, a day here, and a day here, to make sure that we're getting the sunrise, but also the docks weren't too low or too high in the water.
It's actually really funny because we chose that location specifically because it has such gorgeous sunrises. It's facing east and it's got the mountains behind it and the city behind it. And all 3 days that we all agreed to shoot, it was cloudy and rainy. So the dancers were actually dancing on a wet dock that's moving up and down, with the waves coming in. So dancer wise, it was actually quite a challenge. And even one of the dancers fell in once, and I won't say which one, but it was very amusing for all of us.
Yeah,
I gotta say that's absolutely the most Pacific Northwest thing. Every day you choose to shoot is rain and cloud. That's perfect. I mean, it really helped make everything flow, because it all looks the same.
Well, a lot of that is thanks to Henry and all of his amazing editing. So
thank you. It was a lot of fun.
Have you seen your film resonate with any audience you might have screened with?
Yeah, I mean, I've had people come up and say that they've watched it dozens of times. I know that like on the artistic side, we really tried to incorporate more people than necessarily was in our purview. Like, we really wanted to include a local Seattle musician. So Jason Webley, who's kind of a Pacific Northwest superstar here. And I know that that music really resonated with a lot of people as well. And just being able to see the city, through a lens when all of us were stuck inside. I mean, those first days of the pandemic, especially here in the Pacific Northwest, everybody took it very, very, very seriously. And we were all kind of trapped inside. And I think that it gave people, at least who were talking to me, it gave people kind of a window out, honestly, like to what they remembered and where they wish they could be. So
I guess, would you have any advice for anyone trying to get that shot, that one specific shot you need in the rain?
I mean, it's not going to be what you hope it's going to be. So incorporating a good amount of change and kind of going with the flow is always going to make sure that you're kind of thinking more positively and moving forwards instead of getting stuck on something that you can't control, like weather. So that's kind of how I approach it.
Absolutely. Well, your film is beautiful. Thank you guys so much for stopping by and talking to us this morning. Yeah, you
Sweet.
can watch it at pdxff.com.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks. Now we're going back to, I believe, yep, here he is.
I'm back. Yeah. There's something wrong with my internet.
Okay. Do you happen to remember the last thing I asked you? Because I can't.
Yeah, you're asking me about what's something about how I made this film, like something most remarkable, something like that. Yeah. So I mean, everyone is being so nice through this journey. Like all the bands, the Lodos and the Panzer Beach, they are like being very nice to me, and I just what I do is just send them an email and about the proposal of my film, and they really want to be part of it. And but yeah, I just said there's so many mistakes happened through this production, but I'm kind of a person who is trusting the creativity happens in the post-production, and also creativity happens in the mistakes. So it turns out pretty okay, and I like it. It's my punk.
Nice. I guess, do you have anything coming up for you next as a director?
Yeah, I'm actually right now I'm really into doing animations. Since the pandemic, I cannot really go outside and doing too many things. And I have already made an animation, 5 minutes animation, and that's just blown my mind. And I decided to do more. And also when the time is okay, or there's some new stories come up, I might go back to documentary, because making this documentary is kind of like a dream. It's kind of like doing a dream. It's like I create a dream and I just enter into that dream, and it's so different from what I thought. And that was a wonderful journey.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for rejoining us. You can watch Live in the House at pdxff.com.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck. All right. I believe next we have the director from Duel.
Hi, I'm Sam Brosnan. I'm the director, co-writer, DP, editor of Duel, which is a short sort of sci-fi thriller.
Now, that was an interesting one. I love the ending. Would you mind telling me a little bit why'd you write this movie?
Well, my co-writer, Jason Carrero, and we met at a screenwriting group here in Portland, Maine, that he started. And he'd written a lot of features, and I was working on some features as well as directing some short documentary stuff. And both of us just wanted to make something, not try to wait for funding or development to complete on a script, but just make something. So we tried to think of an idea. We both, like genre films a lot. And we wanted to make something kind of exciting and grounded in the sci-fi genre that we could make on very little budget, basically just with, ourselves and a few friends. And we just came up with the idea of like somebody waking up into kind of an extreme mysterious circumstance and not knowing what's going on, and having the audience play catch up along with the character as they, try to figure out and, physically combat, the plot of the film, basically. So we just started from there and batted around ideas about what would be kind of, just a gripping and fun film to make.
Would you be interested in expanding this into a feature if you had the time and money?
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking us that, actually. And initially, our first thought was no, it doesn't need to be. But we've actually been working on a treatment basically for a feature version of Duel because people keep asking. And, the idea for the film, it's, without spoiling anything, it's, it's kind of a thriller with a sci-fi that lives in a sci-fi world. And we wanted it to feel like a slice of a much bigger film in a way, making I think it's like a 9-minute short. And we wanted it to just kind of suck you in and feel, sort of hint at this bigger, sci-fi world without really showing anything. So, initially we didn't really feel the need to like flesh out that world. It was just kind of implied. But yes, we started talking about it as if we did flesh it out into a feature, to be kind of like a road trip movie of sorts, which is kind of an interesting way to take it, because we don't want to do like a remake of Invasion of the Body Snatchers or anything like that. So basically the feature would pick up exactly where the short leaves off and just go on from there.
So it definitely works as a thriller. I liked the guessing game the entire time. I wasn't sure what was going on. God, what was my next question for you? Sorry about that. Do you have any memorable moments making this film?
I mean, it was a lot of fun to make. We filmed it with a very small crew and a small cast of actors here in Maine. A lot of it was filmed in the woods, and a lot of it was me running, sprinting through the woods, trying to keep up with our lead actor, with a small camera package on a gimbal, and just keep him kind of in focus and in frame. And the character, in the story, he wakes up in the woods and he's in his pajamas and he has bare feet. And so it was kind of a, logistical, physical challenge for Ian, our lead actor. How can he run fast through, the underbrush with bare feet and not get hurt? So I had ordered these weird bottom of foot stickers from Amazon that are supposed to protect your feet for barefoot runners. They didn't work at all. They just fell right off. So we ended up having to have him wear, shoes and just crop out his feet. And then, in select shots where we showed his feet, I ended up, some he was actually barefoot, God bless him. He was very willing to do his own stunts. But for some shots, I had to rotoscope out his feet, basically paint out his feet frame by frame, paint out his shoes for the shots he had shoes. So that was definitely a bit of a challenge, kind of during production and in post.
That sounds like a bit of fun there. Yeah.
Yeah.
How have you seen your film resonate with audiences?
It's been interesting this past year. I wish I could say I've been in a theater with a bunch of people, reacting to the film, but we've had some kind of virtual watch parties with, friends all over the country, and, showing it to people, in person, on a one-on-one level. People react very well. My grandma was scared watching it. A lot of people want to know about the ending and why we left it like that. What's going to happen to the girl? And they, people seem very concerned about the end, which is good. That's kind of where we wanted it. It's been very positive. A lot of people saying, wow, that looks like a real movie. We had, almost no budget on this thing. So to kind of make it, look and feel like we did, that's really a compliment to me when people react to it positively.
Yeah, for sure. I have to agree with them. It looks beautiful. You guys did a great job with that.
Thank you.
I guess, do you have anything coming up you'd like to talk about?
I got a few things. I have a music video coming out in a couple months that was actually filmed sort of in some of the same bits of forest that Duel was filmed in. And I have a pilot, like a half-hour dramedy pilot that I wrote, and I want to make maybe like a 5-minute sort of proof of concept short to kind of go along with that. I would need some real budget to actually make the pilot myself. So I'd rather, make a little sort of version and then try to, package that with the pilot to kind of show what I'm going for. I have a sci-fi feature script that I'm working on too, but again, that's big budget stuff I can't just make on my own. So that's down the road.
Yeah, that's fair. So anytime you have anything you want to share, we'll pick it up.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for screening with us, and thank you for stopping by this morning.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here in Portland.
Absolutely. I believe you have the director for Shadows next. Oh, Shadow Weavers.
Shadow Weavers, yeah. Hey, how's it going? My name is Erica Nguyen. I'm the director of Shadow Weavers, a producer and editor as well. And yeah, happy to be here with you. Sorry, I've got much of a disguise going on. I'm at work right now, so.
That's perfectly fine. How did you decide, or why did you decide to tell this story? I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think it took a long time to figure out what the root motivation was, really. But I ultimately found in the course of the journey of making this film that I was very concerned with my own loss of cultural heritage. So, yeah, I'm a first generation Vietnamese American who grew up in California, and the second language that I picked up out of choice was Spanish and not Vietnamese. And so I think over the course of like my dad's own history as a refugee from the Vietnam War and assimilating in this country, a lot has been lost within, one passage of a generation in terms of my connection with both language of the Vietnamese culture and like connection to so many other things. So I think my deep desire was to understand what happens when we become estranged from our origins. And with the Peru story, which is about hat makers, and in Peru, it sounds like a totally, separate conversation. But at the time, I was studying sociolinguistics and Spanish and ethnography through anthropology. And I was deeply concerned with like how we can embody our languages and what that does for our connection with understanding ourselves and being a part of a community. Yeah, I kind of discovered that hats themselves, in Peru and many other cultures, they use dress in such a specific way, to describe themselves and what their desires are, where they're headed, where they hope to occupy a space in a community, whether it's, the storyteller or, someone who holds some kind of authority in that community. So I took on the Hat Project as basically trying to understand when a tradition is going away, why is it going away? And what's going to happen when people aren't communicating themselves and aspects of their identities through, visual cues. So yeah, that was a lot of my motivation, honestly. Wanted to continue existing in the Spanish-speaking world. That was like where I found more access to being able to describe what I wanted to do and learn people's stories and share them in an authentic way.
Did you have any
Sorry, Joe, could you repeat that question? You cut out right in the middle. Hello?
It's never been easier to support independent voices and experience the Portland Film Festival. Simply grab your Xfinity voice remote and say Portland Film Festival.
Next, the Watch With app appears with all the content at your fingertips. Enjoy behind-the-scenes access to free films created by a diverse array of talented independent filmmakers.
Willie, there are so many great movies to watch from the comfort of our own home, and experiencing the Portland Film Festival has never been easier.
Hello, my name is Glenna Bermer, and I am the producer and director of the film Nanakorobi Yaoki, which is Japanese for 7 times you may fall, but get back up the 8th. It is a very famous Japanese proverb that has to do with having the strength to keep trying, even in times of great difficulty. It's the story of a young girl in Hokkaido who undergoes 7 major challenges in a snowstorm in order to save the life of something that she loves dearly. The film was created in collaboration with Gabby Brighter as the artistic director and Deep Sky Studios of Portland, and it was done in the style of sumie as a tribute to my mother, who who was a very well-known Sumier artist. Thank you.
Hi there, Portland Film Festival. My name is Sarah King, and I'm the director and producer of Our Dad Danielle, which is a documentary feature about Danielle Joy Healy, her wife of over 30 years, their 2 daughters, in Sugar Land, Texas. We chart Danielle after she comes out at 57 years old as a trans woman, and how it affects her family and also her law career. We also get to interview some people like Sasha, Jerry, and Andrea, and we get to see what it's like to be a trans woman in a place like Texas. This film is about a lot of things. It's about trans rights, it's about family, it's about finding yourself no matter what the age, and the beauty that comes from self-acceptance. We hope that this film resonates with you, that you'll seek out how you can help other trans people around the US and the world, because their rights are being attacked daily. 70% of Americans haven't met a trans person knowingly. And we hope with this film that you feel like you've met some. We hope you enjoy watching it, and we hope you like it. All right, thank you very much.
Sorry about that. Okay, let's bring Erica back. Thank you for sticking around. I was going to ask about challenges, but did you have a favorite part about making this film?
Oh, a favorite part? I mean, I set out to be a filmmaker that was hitting the road, and very much so in the field. You know, we covered 15 different communities in Peru on the course over the course of filming. So as far north as Rioja, which was high jungle, to the Andes in the north, where they do a lot of straw hats, and then all the way south as far as Moquegua and Puno and Lake Titicaca. So, I mean, highlights. What's funny is I wanted to travel and ask people questions about, you know, how they understand their traditions and their connection to their histories. And then I ended up being an editor for the next 3 years. So I would say that, like, honestly, being out and asking questions and trying to piece together the story with a small dedicated crew. So it was myself and 2 to 3 other women that were, you know, helping me logistically move ourselves from place to place, taking every form of transportation possible, boats, trains, planes, all of it. We didn't get on a horse, but maybe next time. But yeah.
Would you have any plans to go back to Peru to maybe explore a little further?
I mean, there's so much to see. I think I barely scratched the surface, honestly. So, for example, we didn't really go into Cusco at all. And I know that's a world in and of itself. And that's part of the reason I wanted to not go there and kind of tackle some like lesser known regions, more indigenous communities that people don't necessarily associate with Peru. The draw to go back to Peru is really about sharing with all these communities that participated in sharing their stories, as well as taking part in the community workshops that we offered. So part of like our methodology was wanting to be reciprocal in the way that we were learning, you know, and documenting. And so we offered podcast and zine making workshops on each of our expeditions with key communities, and then reincorporated those back into the film. So we took a podcast and reoriented it and added some effects to sound more radio-like, and just dropped that in as a soundscape into the film, as well as like brought in a lot of illustrations from the zines into our credits. So really it's their story. I just got to put it together and be blessed to be close to it and hear their testimonies. So the next big thing with exploring more is really just offering it back to them because it is theirs. And we're also really lucky that the first audience for Shadow Weavers was Peruvian at the Corriente No Ficción Festival in Arequipa. And that was at the end of 2020. So it was definitely digital. But yeah, I mean, in terms of exploring, there's a big world out there, and I really do feel strongly that after this experience, I want to kind of tackle some of my own family history topics. So that's actually the next direction that I'm headed.
I guess the two-parter is going to be split there. How did the audience react during your screening, your opening night? And yeah, I guess we'll leave it at that for now. We'll look at the second question later.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with digital film festivals, I mean, Portland's been pretty exceptional, but there's not a whole lot of interaction, to be perfectly honest. So the film's been in 11 different festivals at this point, and I just recently in October got to screen it live for the first live audience in Santa Fe at the Santa Fe Independent Film Festival. So that was the first time I actually got to witness any kind of reaction to the film, and it was received really warmly. There were several Peruvians in the audience, which warmed my heart. There's a connection between New Mexico and Peru for whatever reason. That's a whole nother topic to discuss. But yeah, I mean, people were thrilled, and they were making connections with, their own cultures and where they come from, and understanding, what happens when we lose this dance. Does the dress that goes along with that, does that go away? So there was a lot. There was a lot in terms of like intending for certain messages to land and be impactful to people, and that they were coming up afterwards. And there was a lot of buzz coming out of the theater. I had waited a long time just to have that experience. It's a pretty integral part of this whole filmmaking thing, is getting it seen and getting to share what the experience was like of making it. So it was wonderful. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I guess for the second part, I am not in touch with either side of my roots personally. How important is it, and what advice would you recommend for people trying to rediscover their backgrounds?
Ooh, yeah. I mean, I asked myself that same question, I think with anything, if you want to know, you got to ask questions. And that seems pretty obvious, but asking the same question multiple different ways. I've found over and over again, because I worked in Peru for about 4 years, that depending on who you ask the exact same question, you'll get a very different response. And so it's not to say that one is right and one is wrong, but you kind of have to be cast the net really wide, right? And then kind of see what resonates most with you, and go towards that and follow it to the end, and once you get there, and if you're going to find 3 or 4 more questions to ask. So it's really about having openness to being inquisitive. And I mean, for me, I'm with looking at my own family history, I'm fortunate that my dad, most of his siblings are still around, so I can ask him these questions. And he has a pretty clear memory of his mother, because she's going to be a main protagonist, but she passed when I was 1 or 2. So a lot of her memory lives on in these writings that she painstakingly, learned how to read and write from my father teaching her in her 50s, how to read and write in Vietnamese for the first time. So yeah, now it's well, I don't speak Vietnamese. So now the work here is learning how to decipher that language, sitting down and translating. So you kind of follow the clues that you have, and starting with, maybe some aspect of personal, growth and discovery that you are thirsty to know about. And just being enthusiastic in that way, people will open up in ways that you'd be very surprised. So.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience?
Oh gosh, just thank you for being here. Thanks for listening in. Thank you for asking questions. And we're Shadow Weavers is going on to a couple more film festivals, and I have many yet to hear back from. But I think an upcoming one would be the Buenos Aires International Film Festival, and their opening night is in December, and they're going to spread it out for a couple months in some hybrid formats. But yeah, Buenos Aires, and then in Quetzalcoatl, there's an Indigenous Film Festival that I believe is this month. It's November now, and so that'll be in Oaxaca, Mexico. If if you're in that part of the world, go check it out there. But otherwise, I'm trying to do some local kind of more grassroots screenings here in Santa Fe and northern New Mexico in general. So yeah, come on by.
Absolutely. Well, have a great luck with the rest of your festival run. Thank you, Erica, for talking to us this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Now we have one more director.
Hello.
Would you mind introducing yourself and your short real quick?
Yeah, so I am Fanny de la Chica. I am presenting my short film At Dawn.
Could you give us a quick idea what At Dawn's about?
So At Dawn was is kind of a mix between an experimental short film, music video, and fashion film that I filmed in my hometown in Jaén, in the south of Spain, in Andalusia. But I am based in LA. I live in the US for a long time. But I went there to film this short, and I wanted to express how patriarchy try always to oppress women through rules and oppress them in how they behave in their behavior, and basically in the story a woman arrived to a small village. Probably the short that is silent, only have music, but probably this is the village where she come from, and she find out that another woman that is like her, that is very similar to her, died. So this village is full of mysticism and full of women, but only there are one man, and he is the one who put the rules. So when she go into the cemetery with all the other women, and she's in the middle of lunch, like after going to the cemetery, she finds out that maybe it was the man who killed the women. So she kind of provoke a revolution, and all the other women in the beginning don't follow her, but at the end the women join her and kind of fight together against the patriarchy system in the village.
Say all the costumes in your short were beautiful.
Yeah, they are from a fashion designer. She's because my hometown is very small, so she's cousin of my cousin. She's my second cousin. So she's a fashion designer, and the inspiration for the costumes are designed like flamenco dresses, but inspired for the ancient Greek. So it's like kind of a mix between flamenco dresses, like traditional flamenco dresses, but with a hinge of the Greek ancestors' dresses.
So how difficult was it to shoot in these narrow streets, and then in the mountains?
Incredible difficult, because I planned in the beginning with we filmed this last year, everything was locked down, and in Spain they just started to open slowly, but still like they were very conscious about the deaths, because we had like a lot of deaths for COVID. So I thought maybe it's better if I film everything outside, try to find locations that are natural locations that are beautiful. So my hometown is very small, but we film in different villages, not only in one village. So for example, for the location with the waterfall, with the small waterfall, I had the team like 20 people going through dirty road, walking for 20 minutes with all the equipment, with everything. They change like a lot of, because it was summer, but we film in August, but the what and my hometown is so warm. It's, believe me, it's very warm. But we film in the morning, and the water was so cold, like incredible cold, that this was a nightmare to film these scenes. Then because it was summer, like people going to the water, and it was during the weekend, people go to the waterfall in summer, to the river, because they go to swim, because there are other parts where you can swim in the river. So we were filming, and some of us were almost naked, and some people passing by like, what is that, what you are filming? And I think this was the most difficult scenes, and actually was the first one we filmed. But after this, the other landscapes that we have, the other locations, was kind of easy to film. Sorry. Was kind of easy to film there, because they help us a lot from the council of the other village. And yeah, we had a lot of help, and of course to film in the locations were for free. And it's good when you go into small places to film, because everyone gets involved, and everyone try to help you. So this is beautiful.
Absolutely. What was your most memorable part about filming this?
I mean, I needed to be acting and directing. But I think I was very scared of COVID, so I remember to go to the dentist. I have a dentist appointment like 2 days before I start filming. I don't know why I did that, but anyway, I was so stressed that I started to cry to the and the dentist was like, "It's okay, don't worry. It doesn't gonna hurt." And I say, "It's not for that. It's because I am very stressed. Like I am filming in 2 days. Everything is prepared, but I am very scared that something goes wrong or for COVID. Like I was very paranoid. So I think this was the worst part. Then, like the thing about COVID was bad for this reason, but also like a lot of people, like professional people, like that normally they are working in Madrid, or they are living in another country, because it was COVID, they came back to my hometown. And I have the privilege to work with very professional people that normally they are not in my town. And that I think I had a very solid team that make the film possible, because even that the film is only 3 minutes, we were filming for 2 days, because we had a lot of locations, and there are a lot of shots, and everything is very visual, that I really wanted to have like and the pace is kind of quick. So yeah, I wanted to have like the composition was for some of the shots were very difficult. So I really was also scared to not have time to film everything.
Yeah, yeah. Is there anything coming up for next for you as a director?
Well, like I have a feature film in development. Some of these images that I have in the music video were taken originally because during COVID, during the pandemic, during the lockdown, I was rewriting my feature film. So some of these images I have with the river, and my hometown is surrounded by olive trees. So some of these images came from the feature film um, that I have in development, and I have several producers, and the feature film is to film between New York and my hometown, and it's about a singer that she needs to return to the hometown because the grandmother died, and the grandmother was a flamenco singer. So I have this in development, and then I have a documentary film in post-production that I have been working for a long time, and then I have a short film which I film in New York, in Harlem, and that is in the last stages of post-production. So I hope to have the premiere of this short film next year.
So 3 separate projects up in the air. That's
No,
wild.
and then I have because I am also a singer, so I want to release another album next year. So with the album, I will make more music videos, but then I need to have money.
So 3 films and an album. You were keeping busy.
Very busy, but in the meantime, I also need to make money with other things. So it's kind to find the balance, because of course you, as an artist, you need to keep going, doing things with little money, with more budget. Like I was lucky because for this project, Life Water was supporting the project. So they told me, like, do whatever you want. I'm gonna show you, because I have, like, the film was part of a commissioned, like they selected 20 artists from the US for underrepresented communities. So I appeared in a bottle of water, in Life Water. So this is kind of the poster of the film. And appear like here my name, and you have here, you can scan the QR code, and my film gonna appear. And they are selling in the US in the supermarkets. You can find the bottle everywhere. But I got funding for making this film, this kind of music video. So what I am trying now, like with my future film, is more kind of getting some public funding in Spain, and then some money, private funding from the US, to kind to do a co-production. But then with my music videos, I'm gonna try to do again the same, like to get some funding from some company, so they can sponsor the music video, because in the end you put the music video on YouTube and there are a lot of people involved, and it have a wide audience when you put it on YouTube.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
Thank you to you to select my film, because sometimes it's very difficult to get selected into festivals. And it's good that there are festivals that give you the opportunity to talk. And I mean, I hope to go next year to Portland and present my next short film, because I really like to go in person, and get the experience of meet you, the programmers, like the director of the festival, because in the end, like if you continue making films, which this is, I started to making films when I was 17. So for me, it's my life, I make films with money, with no money, I just keep going. So it's good to the people that you meet, like in my case, like that I met 10 years ago. Some of these people is still making films, and it's good, like you get in touch and you make connections that and you make friends that last forever in these festivals. And this is I think what drives me to continue making films, because like most of the times you will find people that support you.
Absolutely. And I hope we're back next year live.
I hope so.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Okay. Then we're going to take a short break and be back with our second round of filmmakers.
It's never been easier to support independent voices and experience the Portland Film Festival. Simply grab your Xfinity voice remote and say Portland Film Festival.
Next, the Watch With app appears with all the content at your fingertips. Enjoy behind-the-scenes access to free films created by a diverse array of talented independent filmmakers.
Willie, there are so many great movies to watch from the comfort of our own home, and experiencing the Portland Film Festival has never been easier.
It's been a long, long isolation.
I'm a detective. The name's Phillips, Marlo Phillips. But maybe you already read my door.
Marlo Phillips, private investigator.
My streak of bad luck changed the day I got this particular case.
His name is Dolores Dupree.
This is how I saw it, and now it's exactly how you're going to see it. Cut the double talk, doll. You think Gillis stole your weird art. You want me to prove it.
I don't like your tone, Mr. Phillips.
Well, I don't like your desk.
Fishfeld! What a coinky-dink. I just purchased one. I'm having it appraised by an art dealer.
The Fishfeld. It's gone. It was right over there. I know it was.
Why can't a man up and be a man and stay married to me?
Is this dressing up like a lady job related?
I know you developed a severe psychosis. Or in layman's terms, you became...
He's dead.
Dead?
There's a doornail. He's brought the farm, he's kicked the bucket, he gave you the long goodbye.
I believe you are in search of the Salvador Fishfeld, for which I have agreed to purchase from Dolores Dupree, and I would like to have what is mine.
Shut up! I want that drawing!
You do know you have a gun pointed at your head, right?
Yeah, I have a thirst for a lot of things, doll. Life, love, liquids.
Bang, bang!
I don't get it.
That bird is lying.
I got a score to settle with you.
I'm so alone. I'm so alone. Alone, all alone. So all alone. Lonely. Singing this song.
It's the end of the world. That's how it feels right now. Watching it all unfold. Like you and me, how it all came down. I feel you more than ever when I hold her in the night. Once that was you, now I don't even know where you are. No matter how I try, I can't forget that once that was you. I've been on my own far too long now, too many. And I can't stand this town. Everywhere I go, dead end. I need someone who loves me to hold me in the night. Once that was you, now I don't even know where you are. No matter how I try, I can't forget that once that was you. I see you in her eyes. I feel so wrong. It burns. It tears me up inside. With the love so deep it burns. Once that was you. Now I don't even know where you are. No matter how I try, I can't forget that once that was you. Oh, I can't forget that once that was you.
Welcome back. We're starting with our second round of directors.
There,
Heather,
there.
would you mind introducing yourself and your film for us?
Sure. My name is Melanie Rivera Waldman. I am a director. I submitted my film Couples Therapy for this year's Easter Seals Disability Film Challenge.
Would you quickly give us an idea, without saying too much, about what your film's about?
Sure. My film is a mockumentary, which was the theme of the film challenge this year. We were portraying real people with real problems, but the little subliminal messaging we had there was that most of our cast was disabled, including myself. I'm a right arm amputee. So our film focused on couples and couples therapy, which is the title, and chaos ensues because their therapist is maybe not the best person out there to be providing therapy for people who really need it. And you kind of question whether or not the therapist, Dr. Mel, who I play, really should be conducting any therapy whatsoever.
Now, I love all the films we get from Easter Seals. They're always creative. What was one of the biggest challenges making this film?
Sure. So this film challenge for 2021, this was the second Easter Seals film challenge that was done in quarantine, and we filmed the majority of it remotely. So there was a lot of technical challenges. We did film most of it over Zoom, and you'll see the formatting change as we had three separate couples. One couple was in person, so they were on the same screen, but everybody else was kind of all over the place. So figuring out the formatting was really difficult. I also, I'm the executive producer on the film. This was my first year directing solo. So the challenge of learning as I was going was a really big challenge. However, we had some really great talent on our team this year, including Steve Way, who is supporting cast on Rami on Hulu. And one of the best things was that he was the first couple I filmed with, and he gave me pointers all along the way. And the rest of my cast did the same and filled in, and they were a really big support as I was kind of learning through all that. But I definitely found that because I am an actor predominantly, I could speak the language and communicate what I needed to effectively to my cast. So it did work out, even though it was a little bit of a challenge. But I think it was the most accessible to the people on our team who are disabled, who may not be able to travel to set, which I found difficult in the past. This is my 5th year in the competition. So I think this was the most accessible yet because it was over Zoom.
Yeah, we've had a lot of films coming in through Zoom this year.
Yeah, it's
Do you
amazing.
expect that to be a thing for a long time coming, or
Yeah, you know what? Our film actually, a lot of people did incorporate the topic of COVID. We did not really necessarily have to talk about it because it wasn't the subject matter. So I think that as time goes on, filming remotely, especially now that I'm an actor and I'm seeing calls come in, a good amount of them are for remote jobs. So I think that this is definitely a trend that's going to stick around, which, like I said, makes me really happy as I'm somebody who does promote accessibility in front of, behind the camera. I think it's a beautiful thing. So I hope it does keep going.
So you get some very interesting stories told when you have to have people apart. What was your favorite part about making this film?
Wow. My favorite part, I think, was gathering the talent. That's usually not the hardest part. I honestly wanted to put in more talent, more disabled talent, because I have so many friends who I just want to be on my team. But I think that in keeping it to 3 couples, we really had a good amount of time for everybody to be seen equally. A lot of equity there. And in acquiring these actors, such as Steve, I met through the film festival in years past. We also have Imani Barbarin, who is an activist, an advocate for people with disabilities on TikTok. She has a really big following. Also, Jaleesa Graham, who I'd worked with in the past, was on our team. And that was something that was great too, because Steve and Imani were new people that I didn't necessarily know. So in having the talent balance with Jaleesa, who is with Steve, she, I knew, could just be funny. So letting all of these people come in, meet each other on that day to be couples, letting them read the scene, which we wrote the day before due to the challenge, just having them interact all of a sudden, and it just turned into this beautiful thing with improv, and just they were making me laugh as we were filming. That was really hard not to, but I was playing a therapist who's not great anyway, so she can laugh at her clients. I think that was great.
Do you have anything coming up for you next as a director? Yeah.
Yeah, so this is my directing debut. So I don't necessarily have anything planned specifically just yet. Our film is currently in the waiting process to hear back. I was listening to some interviews before. We're still waiting on some submissions to hear back from. However, I'm getting into the process of starting some fundraising. And if I can plug my little social media, it's Where's Waldman, like my last name, all one. I'm going to be putting up some fundraising so that we can hopefully get to those film festivals in the future. And personally, on top of that, I'm auditioning for acting grad school programs in January. So that's coming up really soon. And I'm really excited for that. Also, I just think it's great that we have these opportunities. And I'm really grateful that Portland Film Festival had the opportunity to meet with me today. Thank you guys so much.
Well, thank you, and good luck with grad school.
Thank you.
Hopefully you keep with the Easter Seals and we get to screen some of your work in the future.
Yes, that'd be great. Yeah. And please, to anybody who's listening, hire all the disabled talent that you can, because the more people that we have in front of and behind the camera working and interacting, the more equity we have in telling our stories authentically. Most of the time we're playing these characters who are downtrodden and are looked down upon. And this was just a chance to have fun and get as much representation as we could get out there as possible. So I'm really glad that we had this opportunity to show.
Absolutely. We're so grateful to have had the chance to talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Okay. I believe next we have, Small Steps. Hey there.
Hello, Joe.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you
you-
so much for inviting me to be part of this wonderful Meet the Directors interview, and so honored to be part of the Portland Film Festival.
No, we're grateful to have you. Would you mind introducing yourself and your film real quickly?
Yes, my name is Hortense Gerardo, and I'm the director of the documentary feature film Small Steps, Dances of Resilience. It's a documentary that tracks 9 dancers as they dealt with the early stages of the pandemic when they had to pivot from doing a live performance in the Boston area to basically trying to salvage months of rehearsal. And the film is basically the embodiment of their work, which was intended to inspire climate resilience in the Boston area, to try to inspire people to act responsibly and to try to decrease our carbon footprints. It was only going to have 3 performances in April of 2020. And since that time, this documentary film has traveled all over the world. I'm so honored to say that it's won a Best Environmental Film Award at the Vancouver Film Festival. It won a Best Dance Film Award in the Rome Film Awards. It's been everywhere from Srinagar in India to Amsterdam, London, New York. So it's really great to be able to present it to audiences in Portland. And from what started to be a project that was purely a labor of love. And it's good to see that in the film festivals where it's been, it has generated discussions about how we can all act responsibly and face the coming changes ahead.
Absolutely. How difficult is it to keep track of 9 subjects, 9 different stories, and have them essentially, taking care of their own cinematography?
Well, we were very fortunate because in the process, when we still felt this was going to be a live performance, I'd asked the dancers to track the progress of their original choreographed works by taking footage on film. And back then we were already having online meetings, and we would be sharing snippets of film with one another to be able to track people's progress. So when we had to then rethink the project when all the performance venues shut down in the lockdown period of April 2020, it was an obvious choice to basically collect all the rehearsal footage that the dancers had put together. And then the real challenge became, well, how could they then perform the final performance pieces? Because we were just about to perform at the start of the pandemic. We were just about to get together and do group rehearsals. Each of the 9 dancers had been rehearsing individually. And those 9 dancers represent 6 different dance styles, 6 different groups, basically. So they had already been rehearsing separately, and we were just about to do, rehearsals for the grand group numbers, 9 of us. So it was really interesting looking back at how we basically just kept moving forward. It was never an option to say, well, that's it. All of this rehearsal and these projects are just going to disappear into the netherworld. It was ironically, a real sign of the creative spirit and human resilience that these dancers all pulled together and said, we're going to do this and we're going to make a documentary film.
Yeah, I guess that covers my question about challenges. I mean, this whole thing sounded like an ordeal. And you guys had great foresight to start in the beginning, already filming things. I guess, did you have any what we like to call happy accidents? Anything you didn't mean to happen during, production that just made things better because it did?
Yeah, well, first of all, the fact that we had to do or practice social distancing was initially a challenge, obviously, because for dancers, it's all about being together in the space and creating movement works. There's a lot of bodily contact in dance. But, it really forced the artists to be more creative and to come up with solutions so that they could still rehearse and then ultimately perform their final dance pieces. The original commission for each of these dancers was to create short 5 to 8 minute original choreographed works that inspired resilience in the face of climate change. And they were going to be performing them on small 4-foot by 4-foot stages in person. And, these were supposed to represent limited resources. So the challenge was to try to create original dance works on these tiny stages. And they were all going to be in a theater, in black box theaters. We had 3 black box theaters lined up in the Boston area to perform these pieces. As it turned out, these tiny stages, which originally were kind of a pain to consider how to transport from theater to theater, ended up being the mini rehearsal spaces in the homes of these dancers. So they didn't have to go to dance studios. They had their mini stages at their respective homes or garages or basements, as you'll see in the film. And so that was a happy accident in a way, even though it wasn't really an accident. No one ever thought that people would be bringing these tiny stages home. And I think the dancers became so enamored of them, some of them begged to keep those stages, which was not the original intention, but who could say no after all that we'd been through? Those who wanted those stages got to keep them. So maybe they're continuing to perform these dances.
I was going to ask if you have any plans in the future to maybe do another show like this.
That's a really good question. I mean, I would love to be able to do that. I was commissioned to create this work as the artist in residence for a state agency, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council. And their commission was really to create a work that was socially engaged, that would increase awareness about, the challenges ahead. There had been studies, predicting what will be happening in the 101 municipalities in the Boston area. And if you look at those numbers, it can be, shall we say, challenging and grim. And so the challenge as the artist was to try to create something that was going to inspire hope. And I think that this film, when you see it, successfully does that. When you see what these artists did with that challenge and how they transformed some of the data that we had shared with them about some of the statistics and the numbers that we had from the environment department of our agency with them, and they turned it around into something that is really inspiring. I know that for one of our dancers, she reached out to Greta Thunberg and was given permission to use her 2019 speech to the United Nations, the Shame on You speech. And, we have a dancer who is a former soloist from the San Francisco Ballet. I mean, these are dancers of a very, very high order who created these original works. And I think you can enjoy it both as an environmental talk piece, but also if you are an admirer of dance and really just enjoy watching original dance movement of a very high order. 6 different dance styles. We have flamenco, salsa, modern, street, or cronking, I think, and there's Haitian dance and ballet. So many different dance styles that you'll see in this film, and I hope that people will come away just being aware about what our individual responsibilities are in the future, facing the challenges ahead.
Absolutely. Well, Hortense, thank you so much for joining us this morning, and thank you for choosing to screen with us.
Oh, thank you so much. So honored to be part of Portland Film Festival. This has been an amazing film festival, and thanks again for allowing us to share our work.
Thank you so much. I believe next we have the director of The Sisters.
Hi. Hey, Joe.
Hey there.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Would you mind introducing yourself and your film real quickly?
Yeah, my name's Andrew Benedict. I wrote and directed The Sisters, which is a horror comedy short film.
I really wish we'd had enough films this year to put together an actual midnight block, because I mean that would have fit perfectly in there. It was one of my favorites. Like the horror genre is always one of my favorites. And that it's a comedy makes it even better. Why did you decide this was the story you were going to tell?
Yeah, it was. It is definitely a midnight movie. I don't know. I got the idea in last September, and I was like, I just want to make a fun Halloween movie for Halloween. So it all happened super, super quick. Um, and how did I come up with that? Oh, well, I came up with that because um, I had two like awesome actors, the two actresses in it, and I was like, for COVID safety, they live together. They're both so good. What can I make that is just the two of them? And I love, like Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and Grey Gardens. And I was like, I'll just do some kind of a insane relationship with those two.
Um, what was the greatest challenge you had in making this film?
I mean, I was also the production designer and producer, so I just had like an insane amount of work to do. Like there's stop motion or not stop motion, but there's like a model, there's like a tiny set. So I had to build what's basically like a model train set. Um, and that took a while. My entire kitchen was taken over by this tiny mountain. Um, and I like had to learn how to do that. I took like 3 days off of work and then also went filmed over the weekend. So it was kind of just like an insane sprint to get everything done. And then we also only had a crew of like 5 people. So it was kind of madness. And I'm just happy I lucked out and it all like fell into place and it actually came out good. Because it could have been a mess.
I guys, my next question was, how long did it take to make that little set?
Yeah.
I got
So it was, or the large set took a lot of construction too. And, like me and the DP, who was really like the gaffer and everything, like, built that at his little tiny studio in Manhattan. And, so basically, I produce commercials for a day job, and I had just wrapped one, and they were getting rid of the set flats, and the production designer on that job, like a real production designer, not like me, she was getting rid of the flats and said I could take them. So I just called my friend Bernard, and I was like, "Hey, can I put these in your studio, and we'll make something soon? I don't know what it is, but you're the only person I know with space in New York City." So those went there, and then we probably made that set in like a day and a half, and then the tiny set took longer. That was I don't know, maybe 4 days. I was just like working around the clock. I was like working from home, so I was in my living room, kind of like going at it, and then have an hour and run in the kitchen and stick some tiny trees on this mountain. It was a manic week, definitely.
What advice would you give someone who's looking to make their own little one-room horror film?
So I would say do it right for what you have. So that's kind of what I did. I knew that those two actors were so good and they would do it. I knew that my friend Bernard had a tiny studio and a camera. But a lot of the stuff it was based on what I have. Like it was black and white because it like adds production value and like it adds like aesthetic, but actually it makes it easier with art. Like you can, like if you saw that in color, like the colors are all nuts. They would look crazy. They were wearing like a lime green hat. Like it didn't make any sense. There's a point when one of them is chained to a radiator, and that was my landlord's radiator that was like in the driveway of my apartment building. And I just saw it and I was like, "Hey, can I borrow this?" And she thought I was nuts. But yeah, everything was like stuff I had or borrowed or, bought a lot of stuff on Amazon and returned it afterwards. Yeah. So my advice would be like, make a list of like the cool shit that you have access to, and then find a way to jam it all into one thing.
and then return what you have on Amazon.
Yeah, and like I borrowed my mom's car for this, which was an old Mazda Miata, so it's a very tiny convertible, and so I was just like driving all over New York City with like huge pieces of wood with the top down, like holding the wood so it would stay in the car. It was a lot of borrowing, a lot of just a collection of every weird thing I could find.
Well, it definitely worked out, and yeah, I guess it was definitely a good call for it to be black and white, because I mean the hat looks like it'd be white in black and white.
Yeah, and like the wallpaper was actually like a weird looking color. It just made everything look like a little bit extra.
Looked more tasteful, really. Yeah.
Yeah, it did. It really helps. Like I know that like filmmakers have done it before. Like Francis Ha is black and white, and I think Noah Baumbach said like he made that movie for like no money, and that's just like a way to make it look. It gives it that like prestige, like it has like almost like a Woody Allen look, even though it's just like modern times, regular apartments and stuff. So I stole that from him, I think. It's all stuff I stole from Hitchcock, and it's just I don't know, Tim Burton. It's a big just steal your funnest things. That's what I do.
Do you have any projects coming up you'd like to talk about?
Not that are going to be online soon. I'm figuring out how to make The Sisters into a feature, because because like I think I can do it really cheap. And so I want to bring back all the same people and do a feature length version and make a micro budget feature.
Well, if you're finished, let us know. We'll be interested. Thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Joe.
Absolutely.
And thanks Portland Film Festival for putting me in it.
I believe next we have the director for Shadows.
Hi there.
Morning.
How are you, Joe?
I'm doing well. Yourself?
Good.
Would you mind quickly introducing yourself and giving us a quick idea about your film?
Sure. So my name is Riyad Bakwala, and I'm the writer and director of Shadows. And Shadows is a short film that's a coming-of-age story about a girl who's getting ready for her kind of homecoming dance and kind of stepping into her femininity, while dealing with a very kind of overbearing family, including a brother who just come back from prison, and they're kind of working out their relationship and who they are as individuals versus this kind of family and reconstruction.
I guess I'll ask this one first. How did you decide to tell the story?
Yeah, so I knew I wanted to do something that was like a coming of age, very inspired by a lot of my own experiences at that age, around 17 or so, and had also been researching another project that was looking at the Muslim community in the United States, and I found this like incredible piece of information about one of the fastest growing Latino groups in America are Latinos. And so I don't know, those kinds of things came together as kind of most of my projects do. A lot of different ideas for different things come into one and just find a way on screen.
I guess what I wanted to ask next, how do you feel about balancing multiculturalism, like a Hispanic man who comes out of jail and converts to Islam, trying to rebalance his life, get his family to call him by his chosen name now. Yeah, if that made any sense. I'm not sure how to ask that question any better.
Sorry, repeat it again. I don't know if I fully caught it.
I guess I'm asking about how do you balance multiculturalism?
Got it. Yeah. So, I mean, I think the best way to balance it is really look for something real. And the most important part of this film is the authenticity. So, when it came to looking at this particular community or a character like this, both myself and my actors, we did a lot of kind of independent research. I went and spoke to an Islamic center in New York, so that we were able to fully understand how he would do the prayer and do that accurately. And that was kind of where a lot of it stemmed from. I'm also from a interfaith family, and grew up in a very multicultural upbringing. So I think a part of that's kind of second nature to me and part of my experience. So that's kind of where a lot of that came from. But it was really, really steeped in trying to be very authentic. And I hope that came through.
Absolutely. Would you be interested in making this film into a feature?
Yeah, I've had people ask about this. I think there's something there. Whenever people watch the short, they say, well, I want to know what happens to these guys more than, what you tell us in these 14 minutes. So, I'm noodling on it.
Absolutely. What was the most difficult part about making this film?
What was the most difficult part? It was a very micro budget, small crew, and trying to fit in a lot of pages in a few days, which I think most of us independent filmmakers who are working on particularly shorts were trying to do a lot. And I think that was probably the most difficult part, was trying to get everything that kind of had been envisioned in. And we actually ran out of time. So we then had to shoot, I think, all the stuff you see at the end with the brother and sister out on the street together. We did that. We ended up having to do it a month later. So that was actually a really big challenge in making sure that, fortunately, we still had the dress and the costume. It was just about to become too cold, so we had to work with things like that. So I think the need to do a reshoot, making sure everything looked and felt like the same movie, was definitely the biggest challenge.
That's what we've heard twice today. How hard is it to make sure you keep that continuity and like a month later, especially when the weather's changed so significantly?
Yeah, it's difficult. If I'd waited maybe a week later, things would have been worse. But for example, one of the biggest challenges, we shot in the fall of a couple of years ago, and my biggest problem was leaves. So when we first shot it, I was like, oh my gosh, but there's leaves on all of these trees. And then a month later, I'm like, wait, there's almost no leaves on any of these trees. How much is this going to kind of show? So when I kind of trying to edit around it by also thinking while we were filming, kind of the shot size and making sure we were capturing as much as we could. And the DP and myself were like spending a lot of time during the reshoot looking at, I had kind of taken screenshots and film grabs of the rest of that scene that we'd shot a month earlier to make sure that everything looked the same. And my costume designer and the actors and I were like, is this exactly what you wore? And makeup wise, we had to do that, and facial hair for one of my actors. So we were really like having to look at every little piece of it and recreate it. So you have to have that attention to detail.
Absolutely. I guess, how would you advise someone, that, aside from keeping attention to detail, on making sure they keep everything just right?
Yeah, I mean, so there's a few ways to do it. I mean, in general, you really lean on the other heads of your department. So, for things like makeup and look, you're looking at your hair and makeup head of department or your costume designer to make sure that they're doing the same things every day. And then most sets have this, and I highly recommend it, is you have a script supervisor who's also keeping an eye on continuity. And so that helps a lot. I also am like crazy about production design, so I'm always keeping an eye on it. And then what I think is, even if you don't have a script supervisor, having someone, whether it's yourself or a PA or whoever, is just taking screenshots of, hopefully you have a monitor, and taking screenshots of every shot that you're taking. So then when you're, maybe, a few shots later, you're doing, the reverse shot of a close-up you did of another character, you can focus on things like eye line and size of shots and things like that. And you can always just like refer to the screenshots that you took earlier, the photos you took of the monitor earlier, to make sure everything's matching. So continuity is always the name of the game. But I will say that, as much as you try to do it and be as perfect as possible, if there's small things that, are a mistake, you see it in professional, you see the big, the Hollywood movies and TV shows as well. If the emotion's there, people tend to forgive and not even notice sometimes. So, you kind of have to balance all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have anything coming up you'd like to talk about?
Sure. So I have a television show that I've been working on called User Zero. And so we have a proof of concept short that kind of I'm starting to get out to festivals. We were at Series Fest this year and trying to develop it into a full 1 hour drama. So that's kind of what I'm working on now, trying to kind of get into the TV business.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
Sure. Thank you.
You can watch Shadows on pdxff.com.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks. Next, we have the director of Blank. Oh, pardon me. No. There we go. Okay.
Hi.
Hi there.
How are you?
Would you mind introducing yourself and your film for us, please?
Sure. My name is Natalie Kennedy, and I'm the director of Blank. Blank is about a writer that's got writer's block who goes to a fully AI-run retreat, and something goes wrong, and the robot gets a virus, and she ends up getting locked in with the robot, who won't let her leave until she writes the book. But unfortunately, there's where the difficulty lies.
What gave you the inspiration for this story? It's pretty terrifying.
Yeah, so it wasn't me that actually came up with the story. It was the writer Stephen Herman. Basically, I was looking for my first feature, and I knew I wanted to do something sci-fi, preferably with an AI element. And I was looking high and low for a script with producer Rebecca Claire Evans. And we were just trying to find the right story to tell, basically. And looking on the website Inktip, which is a script site, I found a synopsis and I was like, oh, wow, this feels like the right story to tell. And read the script, and I literally got about 2 pages in. I was like, this is the one. And we were in the car coming back from Pinewood Studios, and she was like, no, just read it. You don't know that. And I was like, no, I just know. I can tell this is the one. And literally got to the end of the car journey, and I was like, no, this is definitely it. She read it. We loved it. Passed it on to Lyndon Baldock, who's who runs Temple Heart Films, who's financing us. And he thought it was great as well. And we just went from there, basically.
What was the most difficult part, aside from, finding your your writer online? What was the most difficult part of getting this movie put together?
Oh, goodness. I think the biggest restriction we had was budget. Obviously, as a first-time feature film director, it's hard to kind of get in and have people believe in you. And, we had a reasonable budget, but obviously you're not going to get a massive budget for your first feature film. So we had to try and make it look great, but in a strict time schedule without a lot of money. It was difficult to get actors on board because of the scheduling and again, first time director. And I think we were right down to the wire getting the actors in the roles. And it turned out very fortunate for us because the actors that we got were just perfect for the roles. And I was so picky, I knew what I wanted. And it just took us a while to get there, but we were very lucky. And at the last minute, we got our cast together. And I was just really happy with how it turned out.
Yeah, I'd say your actors were absolutely perfect in their roles. I mean, God, what was the most, I guess, what was your hardest day on set?
Oh, God. The hardest day was probably, I ended up getting quite sick on set because we were filming in the middle of winter. and it was like -8 degrees, and we were filming outside, and we were filming in this big disused waterworks. Like it was a waterworks that had been converted into a home, and it was just freezing in there. And very stupidly, I didn't have the right coat on, and I ended up getting quite sick. And on the day, like it was a few days before we were supposed to finish, I ended up collapsing on set because I'd just got so sick, and everything had to stop, and we were just so worried that we were going to be able to complete the project. You know, we didn't know if we'd be able to get the actors back. We didn't know if we'd get the location again. And obviously it was going to cost us a little bit more than we originally planned. So that was kind of a really tough day for us. But luckily all the team pulled together. Rebecca ran it really well, where she made sure that we'd got what we needed to get back. Lyndon was so supportive to make sure that we could keep going with the production, and we ended up getting the extra days later down the line. But it was, it was starting to become spring, so everything looked a little bit different, and it was just trying to match things up was quite interesting.
Absolutely. Now that you have your first narrative feature out of the way, what lessons did you take away that you'll carry into your next ones?
I think just definitely to believe in the vision that you have, get a good team around you is so important, and just knowing what you want and not being afraid not to compromise on that. I think having more money would definitely be a positive going forward, and I think that should be a little bit easier now that I've made my first feature and I can show that off and show what I can do. I think just, like I say, having a good team around you, good actors, and having a strong vision for what you want to do.
Do you have anything coming up you'd like to discuss?
Yeah, I've got a couple of projects. So myself and the producer Rebecca, I've just signed another 2 scripts fairly recently. They're in development at the minute, so we're just kind of getting the scripts to the place where we want it to be. We're working with Lyndon again, who's financing us and who is our executive producer, and we're really excited about what we've got coming up. So one's called Blindsighted, and that's about a runner that loses her sight, and it's about her journey, trying to get back into seeing if she can run again, and it's just a really beautiful story. And the other one's called The Tent on Jupiter, which is a story about 2 brothers, and one unfortunately passes away, and they come from quite an abusive household, and the brother that's left basically tries to emancipate from his mother and find out what happened to his brother and like uncover it to everybody else. So really excited about those.
They both sound like great projects. Thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for having our film as part of the festival. It's been really great.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next, I believe we have the director from Cadence.
Hello.
Thank you for talking to us. Would you mind introducing yourself and your film?
Yes, my name is Michael Cannon, and I am the director, producer, and writer of the short film Cadence. It's let's see, how can I describe this film? We actually didn't reveal what it was about for the first 9 months of making it, and for the first 3 months that after we finished it. We wanted people just to watch it without knowing what it's about. So how we described it was just that it's about a tree that stands alone in the middle of the desert while the rest of the world around it moves. And but as the film continues, as it progresses, we discover that it's actually on the subject of veterans returning home. And shot on 16mm, it takes place in real time. So the film is 7 minutes long, 5 minutes of which is not the credits, and it's just 5 minutes in the life of a man, and 5 minutes in the life of this tree.
I will say yours is one of the I don't want to say that, more interesting, but yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a film like that where you just had one static cam just on a tree until eventually figured out what was going on.
Oh, I'm so glad that you actually saw the film. That's really wonderful. I thought maybe you just had so many films to watch that you wouldn't have been able to watch this one, but I'm glad to hear that you did. Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, yours is one of the earlier ones that we caught up. But yeah, I guess touching on veterans issues is definitely a thing we like to do, every year since we've had a vet on staff. I guess what made you want to tell this story?
Well, a lot actually went into it. I've been researching the subject matter of veterans and PTSD and specific subjects within the realm of veterans, and for about 2 years. And then at some point during the pandemic, I just laid down on the couch and I was in a specific feeling, not to get too deep into it because I know these are supposed to be short, but I had a specific feeling that I felt that I realized what it's like to feel a certain way that veterans that I have interviewed have told me that they felt like some of the ones that I interviewed. And of course it's not the same feeling, but it was similar and close enough to the point where I was like, whoa, I don't know what film I'm about to make, but all I know is that the camera is not going to move. And that's what inspired. So how we shot the film, how we ended up shooting the film came before the actual story and before the character and before everything. Surprisingly. Yeah. It was all based off of that one feeling.
Yeah, I guess, yeah, that's that one shot was beautiful.
Thank you. Wonderful DP and art consultant. So much effort went into that. Yeah.
How have you seen your film resonate with audiences?
The toughest thing about virtual film festivals is that I don't get to be in the audience usually. And that's usually my favorite thing. But the wonderful thing about virtual festivals is that I've had people contact me saying that they saw the film here in Portland and at this festival, and they just sent me like messages on how they felt and what it did for them and what it said, what it meant to them, and that's been the audience response has overall been just surprising for me. I honestly thought that this film was just so unique that nobody would like it. But at the same time, I didn't really care. I didn't care if people would like it. I just felt like this is something that is burning so strongly within me that I just have to make it. And so I made it in the way that it felt, and ended up being surprised when I did see it at a few audiences, or with a few audiences. The audience response overall has been overwhelmingly, surprisingly positive, thankfully. Yeah.
Did you have any challenges making this film?
Yes, the biggest there were two challenges. The first one was deciding to make the film. The second one, which was even harder, was just coming up with the title. Those were the two biggest challenges for our project, I'd say. Yeah.
So how long did this take to shoot?
Well, we originally only had one production day, and it's one shot. We assumed that we might have to come out a second time to shoot it because we timed it to the sun. We timed the shooting day to the sun, and and at a specific location, and we thought that maybe the weather, maybe there would be too many clouds. We were so specific with the vision for it. The cinematographer and I, we decided to shoot it on a specific day, which ended up being the right day, and we thought about going out a second time to get another take of the film, but it turned out that we didn't need to. Not only did we not have the budget to go out and shoot it again, we also just didn't need to. It was there, and it surprised us in the editing room. When we shot it in one way, and I thought that I didn't get the film that I wanted when we shot it, actually. But then we took it to Photocam, where we developed the film, because it's shot on celluloid, 16 millimeter. And once we got that back, I looked at it and I was like, oh no, we did get the film. We don't have to go back out. We got it. And that was just a lovely feeling, just to go back. You can't just go back and like, okay, let's watch what we just shot. There was none of that. It was just like, all right, let's just go in with full confidence. And that's what we did. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you got it just nice and easy then.
Thank you.
I guess what's coming up for you next as a director?
Oh, wow. So I have 2 feature scripts in development that I always start. I tend to direct. I tend to do a lot of directorial work before I actually write a script, and it's been the case with me where I have been doing a lot of that directorial work while developing a script, and so that's one thing. And I'm also shooting a documentary short film at this time as well. And there are a few other things, but that's what I'm allowed to talk about now. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for choosing to screen with us. We're glad to have your film.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be a part of this and to meet you here, Joe. I have so many questions for you. This is someday we'll talk more. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
anytime, yeah. Next, we have the director of I Make Good Sounds at Parties.
Hello.
Hi there.
Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you. Would you mind introducing yourself and your film real quickly?
Hi, guys. I'm Amanda Prager, and I directed I Make Good Sounds at Parties.
This was an interesting movie. Why? Oh, wow. That's a better question. How did you come up with the idea for it?
I'll just give a log line to those who haven't seen. It's about a lonely man who attends a house party that sort of grows nightmarishly surreal. And this man just got broken up with, so it's a very emotional time when he sees his ex there. There's like a lot of, it sort of slowly mounts in terms of panic. How did we come up with this? I worked a lot with Russell Goldman, who is the writer for this, and we both went through breakups at the same time, and we're like, we're gonna make something. Like, we both had this experience, this is pre-pandemic, of going to parties and then being like, what are we doing here? Like feeling alone, like without that sense of companionship that a couple sort of brings to those sort of social gatherings. And we just wanted to make something that showcased that.
It was definitely a nice feature there. Yeah, I didn't know how to feel walking away. It was very intriguing. What was the most interesting scene to shoot for you? I think for me it was where the guy's face was kind of melting. But for you, what was the most interesting?
Melting face. Yeah, I don't want to give away the ending, but the ending sort of, I mean, ultimately it's like choosing acceptance, choosing that this is the way your life is now. But the most interesting scene to shoot that I really enjoyed was probably like scene 6, which is when he runs into his ex and has these like small little flashbacks of him with, like, he runs into his ex with a new man, and he has these little moments where we, like, you know, match cut in between what she's doing with her current boyfriend or whoever it is, the person she's seeing, and then him. And I think that that was the most interesting one to shoot because we had like flashback lighting, and then we had like the party lighting, and then we had him observing himself in flashback and in the present. And so it was really it was not only a deeply emotional scene for both of us, but it was also, we played with lighting so much and we had so much fun. And it also felt like sort of the heart of the movie is that scene. So it was incredibly fun to shoot that one, and very meaningful, even though it was just 3 people in a hallway. It was the most cathartic, and I think it came on the last day of shooting, so that also helped.
There you go. Yeah, getting your favorite scene in the end. What was the biggest challenge you had making this film?
It was probably the fact that I stepped on set and met 50 people that I had no idea who they were really before at all. So it was quickly trying to get them to trust my vision as a director, and then also trying to collaborate and make sure everyone was heard and make sure like the best idea won. So yeah, there was a lot of the, it was very tough to walk into sort of a new crowd, but then in addition to that, we had this problem with the neighbors. So I was shooting in my friend's house, and we told the neighbors, but they like forgot or something. And the neighbor was very litigious. Like he's like a lawyer. So we were like shining a big disco light, because it's a party, right? The whole short film takes place at a party. So we're shining like all these crazy lights, and they think we're throwing an actual party. So like they come over and they're like, our kids are sleeping. And we're like, oh, like, so we had to maneuver and figure out a way to make sure these like lights weren't shining into their house. I would say that was the most challenging, was sort of navigating the neighbors without production being slowed down. Like that was a very stressful 15 minutes, I remember.
Did you have any actual noise complaints?
Did we have actually? I feel like he made a complaint and then it got handled. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened, but because, this is literally at this point pre-coronavirus, but it was like his kid was sleeping. I think our DP threw up like a big, I'm forgetting what it's called, like a big bounce board or something to block. And then it was problem solved. But that was the biggest technical challenge, was this neighbor who I really did not see coming.
Do you have any advice for everybody who might be trying to shoot a party scene of that size in an actual residential?
I mean, warn the neighbors, which I did, but make sure that they really know what you mean. But when you say you're going to shoot a short film there for 2.5 days, I think if you weirdly advertise it, not necessarily as like a real party, but as like a social event where you could meet people, more people will be inclined to be in it. Like, for example, like we had a tent out back, so nothing could be heard out back. So we had a tent out back with like 20 extras basically at all times. And then we had this like indoor space where like it was sort of soundproof. So what ended up happening was a lot of people like just enjoyed the environment. So they sort of like hung out outside, and it's sort of, so if you're going to shoot a big party scene, I would also say you need less people than you think. Like we had too many with 20. We could have probably done it with 12 and it would have had the same effect. And you can pull a lot of people off backstage if you don't feel like you know anyone personally. And that is what we did. It was a lot of favors. It was a lot of, hey friend, I've helped you with your short film. Like, can you come? There's pizza, offer free pizza. Don't offer real alcohol because you don't want that on your set. But offer not only your normal crafty, but in addition, maybe some additional libations, etc.
That sounds like a fun idea. I guess, do you have anything coming up next you'd like to talk about?
I'm shooting a film called Seeing Other People in like a month or so, and it is about a girl struggling to break up with her boyfriend, who is also a hive mind. So it's like a sci-fi comedy, and I'm really excited to shoot that one because that's also with a lot of people, you know, being a hive mind and all, he controls people. And it is going to be this, I would say, times like 5. Like it's bigger in its scope, and I'm really excited to direct that one. And, you know, my day job is being a writer, so that's also very fun. But the thing I'm most excited about is this next short film, which is going to be, a cool expansion of this.
Sounds pretty fun. I'd love to watch it someday.
Yeah, I want to bring it. I'll bring it to Portland, hopefully.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for talking to us this morning.
Of course, yeah. Thanks.
Oh, yeah. I guess thank you to everyone for stopping by and talking. Congratulations once again, and thank you for all your hard work making your films. It's not too late to vote for your favorites. We still have an audience award to give away, I believe. Yeah, that's it. Thank you so much.
It's never been easier to support independent voices and experience the Portland Film Festival. Simply grab your Xfinity voice remote and say Portland Film Festival.
Next, the Watch With app appears with all the content at your fingertips. Enjoy behind-the-scenes access to free films created by a diverse array of talented independent filmmakers.
Willie, there are so many great movies to watch from the comfort of our own home, and experiencing the Portland Film Festival has never been easier.